Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. And on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of April 6, 2025. First, let's take a look back at some astrology in action. The big story of the solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries was an earthquake in Myanmar. It was a tragic, huge earthquake that killed over 1,700 people. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how Saturn and Uranus were in a sextile, and the sextile lasts for quite a bit. And that was on episode 155. So if you can go back and listen to themes about Saturn, which rules structures, and Uranus, which sudden upheaval, and it's the planet of earthquakes. And in Thailand, over 600 miles away from the epicenter, we saw this huge 34-story building. It got caught on tape, collapsed in seconds. So that's a visual of Saturn sextile Uranus. There was this sudden upheaval, shaking with the ground, and boom, the structure flattened in seconds. So very tragic. And throughout history, astrologers have noted that earthquakes often coincide with these solar eclipses. They're this big energy as the sun, the moon, and the earth all line up in a line. The moon moves between the earth and the sun. It's essentially cutting off the signal between the sun, which is a life-giving force. It also rules leaders, and the earth, the physical manifest realm, and the moon rules the people. So that was one of the biggest stories. And then the next day, Neptune went into the sign of Aries. And I talked about last week that we would see mythic heroes having a challenge or suffering hardships or attacks. The biggest story is that Senator Cory Booker did a 25-hour filibuster feat of strength on the Senate floor, where he didn't stop talking for over a day. So it interrupted the normal business of the Senate. And the word of the day on April 1st when he did this was inspirational. And the day after the solar eclipse, Neptune went into the sign of Aries. And I said on the podcast last week to be looking for mythic hero types and that they could be seeing some kind of challenge by the 4th when we had what I'm calling the Bermuda Triangle, where Mars in Cancer was trine Saturn and Pisces. Mars and Saturn are the malefics, and they both sextiled Uranus. So trines and sextiles are more energies of ease and flow, but these are hard planets. Like Mars in Cancer can be like a whirlpool, like troubled waters. It's pirate imagery, a whirlpool kind of imagery. And then Saturn in Pisces, it's a hardship related to emotional things or water. And then Uranus and Taurus, upheaval, sudden upheaval, energy. So he did this feat of strength, but this energy also gave him the ability to take action, Mars. Keep it going for 25 hours without a bathroom break or any food or anything. And making a breakthrough. Uranus rules breakthroughs. He outlasted Strom Thurmond, who did like a 24-hour filibuster during the civil rights movement. And he was a Republican who stood up there trying to, I believe he was a Republican, Anyway, he was a segregationist and he did not want Black people to have civil rights. And Cory Booker is a Democratic senator from New Jersey who stood up there and broke this segregationist, racist person's record. So that was a thing of beauty already. But his chart was very activated by the eclipses. I recorded a video on YouTube. You can go to the Astrology by Celeste YouTube channel. It's on the page for the live videos. When I recorded it, it went directly to the live page. You can also just search Astrology by Celeste and Cory Booker. And you can watch to learn all about the astrology. But Cory Booker did this thing where he put his health at risk. Virgo rules health. We had the lunar eclipse in Virgo. It conjunct the South Node, which is a drain. That was on March 14th. And Mercury was stationing at that time. And you can just get the image of someone talking, and Virgo counts. And he was detailing all of the things that have been going on in this Trump administration, how it's hurting people. He read letters from people. He stood there as a representative, an archetype, a mythic hero type for the people, a Neptune in Aries type for the people. Aries rules courage and pioneering and conflict, and Neptune rules spirituality and people who we like project this energy of them being like almost superhuman kind of energy onto people. They're like an image, an icon type of thing. That's Neptunian. Yes. So he did something that was a huge drain on his health. He said he was not wearing a diaper. He dehydrated himself intentionally. He didn't eat for days before. So he prepped for this event, was able to have the stamina to do this for 25 hours. And then the solar eclipse in Aries was to his Venus. There's more to the story about that, but Aries rules courage. And he stood there courageously doing what he did. It was inspirational and really incredible. So that was the biggest story. Vladimir Putin, who's a mythic hero to some people, I guess in Russia, was almost assassinated by a car bomb. Mercury was on a world point retrograde at 0 Aries. So the bomb went off in the car, but Putin wasn't in it, but he could have been killed if he was in the car. Elon Musk, I think I talked about it last week, where I'd been looking at the elections and I thought he was going to have a comeuppance, but I thought it was going to be in Florida. I thought the people of Florida were going to potentially flip the House. That did not happen, but the Democrats made huge gains in those Florida elections, but Republicans won both of the seats. But in Wisconsin, where Elon Musk was trying to interfere in that election, and he spent over $25 million. It was an election for a Supreme Court judge in Wisconsin, trying to get the MAGA candidate elected, and the people rejected that candidate and voted for the Democratic candidate, a woman. He got taken down a peg, and it's been announced he's supposed to leave Doge and stop trying to destroy our government, at least temporarily, but so much damage has been done. We'll see what is able to be recovered. And Luigi Mangione, who was the man who killed the United Healthcare CEO in Manhattan, that led to a manhunt, and he has been idolized as an anti-hero for taking on an oligarch, the healthcare insurance company, which kills many people because they deny coverage for all sorts of things and whatnot. So that has been a huge debate about him taking this action, which he should have never killed someone, but there are people who support it because it made a huge statement about these companies and what they do to people. And it started a conversation about denying health care to people. And Pam Bondi, who's the U.S. Attorney General, has said she's seeking the death penalty for him in this case. So that was more shocking news on April 1st. There were a lot of other stories, but I'll leave it at that. We had the earthquake, which was in line with an eclipse bringing on something sudden and in the sign of Aries, a sudden emergency, and then mythic heroes facing challenges. Your cosmic advantage begins with the Wise Skies digital calendar. With descriptions for every planetary and lunar event, all levels of astrology enthusiasts can enjoy the calendar on any device and now in many languages. With this superpower in your back pocket, you will be fully equipped to understand the astrological weather any day of the week. My good friend and collaborator, Tiffany Herlick, creates this calendar every year, and I use it daily. I highly recommend it. Use my coupon code for $10 off. The code is ABC2025. Let the universe have your back with the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar. The theme of this week is Diamond in the Rough, and there are 3 things I want you to think about as you navigate this week. The first is that Mercury will go direct at 26 Pisces on Monday, April 7th. Yay! Mercury rules communication, transportation, and commerce. Now, it's going direct in the sign of its fall, Pisces, where Mercury does not like to be. It's the sign of its fall and its detriment traditionally, because Mercury wants to communicate. And you think about Pisces as a water sign. If you go underwater and start trying to talk, your words are all garbled. So people with Mercury and Pisces often are very creative speakers. At the high road, poets are Mercury and Pisces type people. So just be aware, if you have anything at 26 Pisces or any of the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius, there may be a story in your life. And it could be about something you've been editing or working on for a long time that had some twists and turns with. Maybe it starts getting forward momentum. Mercury went retrograde on March 14th, the same day as the lunar eclipse, if their chart was activated. Or maybe it's about missing a meeting, or you were incorrectly charged. It rules commerce, Mercury, and Pisces has themes of deception, incorrectly charged something on a bank statement or something like that. Because retrogrades are an affliction, but now Mercury is going direct in direct motion, and it will clear its shadow on April 26th. So then it'll start being in new territory. But from now, April 7th to April 26th, Mercury is going over old ground, and we'll see what stories are revealed, what secrets are shared as Mercury goes back over that old ground and communicates what it learned. The moon, which rules the people at the moment Mercury goes direct, is conjunct a fixed star called Dubhe. It's an animal goddess star. It's an Ursa Major, which is the great bear. And so notice if you see any stories about bears, and it's about finding strength, insight, persistence, and endurance. There's a good chance we're going into a bear market with the stock market because the president of the United States is in a tariff war with the whole world that is causing absolute chaos on the financial market. So I don't even know what shape the stock market will be in as you're listening to this. I'm recording this on April 2nd, the day the tariffs were announced. The United States certain states are under tornado watches. So Mercury stationing direct 5 days before and after, there's this intensification of mercurial topics, and Mercury rules the wind. So we might be hearing about a lot of destruction as Mercury goes direct, or some kind of transportation issue or something like that. Now, it could be something about people on water, so cruise ships and things like that. There may be trouble on the seas. But yay, Mercury's going to go direct, and then in about 5 days, it'll start picking up speed. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that Venus is going to go direct on Saturday, right after the Libra full moon. Hallelujah that Venus is going direct, but there's energy that's a bit difficult because Venus is going to meet Saturn 2 more times between in the next couple of weeks. So Venus was conjunct Saturn the first time, and they're both in Pisces, where they were both direct. So Venus went and met Saturn on January 18th, where Venus and Saturn were both at 16 degrees of Pisces. Now, Venus is retrograde in Pisces, and it's coming back, and Saturn's moving forward, and so they are mutually applying to each other at 25 degrees of Pisces, right before Mercury stations direct on April 7th. So we have this Mercury stationing direct in Pisces and Venus retrograde meeting Saturn. There's going to be some story that connects these two. And I got the image of pirates climbing on a luxury yacht, because Venus is exalted in Pisces. So it's like these rich people on a vacation, and the pirates come on then and says, give me all your money or whatever. And maybe they hold them hostage for a week or two or something like that. And it's a big news story. That could be something that is the imagery of what happens. But it's also like people, all these corporations that are now screwed and tattooed because they have no idea how they're going to manage with these tariffs. So there's going to be all these meetings as people in procurement are going to be working themselves day and night, trying to account for where everything comes from and what the tariff is. This is going to take weeks for corporations to be handling. So Venus, money, pleasure, it's got this hardship with Saturn, this kind of buzzkill energy. Yeah, people, maybe they can't go out to dinner with their spouse or things like that because they're too busy working. So April 7th, Mercury goes direct. Venus is still retrograde, but meets Saturn. So there's something about money and alliances and commerce or transportation that is causing this constriction and causing this difficulty. And then April 12th, Venus goes direct at 24 degrees of Pisces. So very near where Mercury went retrograde. And then April 24th, Venus and Saturn are both direct, and Venus catches up with Saturn again at 27 degrees of Pisces. And then Venus moves on. So April 7th through 24th is not a great time for vacations or parties or things like that necessarily. But Venus and Saturn coming together can be also about finding emotional maturity in love. And you could be maybe challenged by some deep conversations with your partner. Water signs are about emotion. Emotionally, there may be some kind of constriction where you let go of unrealistic romantic ideals or take off the rose-colored glasses that just can't stay on forever. When you're in a long-term relationship, you have to deal with reality. Saturn rules reality. You can think about what work, Saturn, you're willing to put into your love relationships. This is a great time to create a budget. Doing taxes in the U.S., tax day is April 15th. Some people may be realizing their relationships are no longer working and decide to break up. And so it may feel like a karma brought you together, but it's just not working. On the same day, April 7th, we have Venus sextile Uranus. So we shall see what happens, but I think the story will be, you can see it in a love type thing, you can see it in business, and we'll see it on the world stage in some ways. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that we have a Libra full moon on April 12th at 23 degrees of Libra. This full moon is an absolute doozy. The sun is in Aries, the moon is in Libra. This is the axis of relationships. We are seeing the United States is breaking up with the entire world. That's what the current president wants. And these tariffs, which are putting a tax on everything people buy in an effort to basically isolate the United States. And Saturn isolates the United States from our allies. Venus, Saturn being isolated from your alliances or partner is one of the themes of that. Now, Israel is going to be in line. I think there's going to be a big story between Israel and Iran that's conflict related, or some other country over there, because Israel's ascendant is 23 Libra, which represents the people of the country. The descendant is 23 Aries. So this full moon is across the ascendant and descendant. So the sun is shining on their house of allies and open enemies, and the moon is conjunct the people. And the sun is conjunct Chiron. And the sun at the full moon, it's separating from Chiron and applying to Eris, the goddess of chaos. Now, Chiron's a wounded healer. Sun figures are leaders. There may be just a spotlight on wounding or chaos, but there also can be a spotlight on a leader being wounded in some way. So it could be a conflict with the people. The people are angry at the leader about something. So it's interesting. Now, with the Venus Saturn, the Venus rules women, I was wondering, I've been predicting forever that the women of Iran are going to rise up again. So maybe there's some story that connects this in there as well. Iran's sun was eclipsed on March 29th. So the sun, the identity of the country, the leader of the country, something may have already happened on April 4th, because that's the first quarter moon, and that's a time of action. But something could be happening as well on this full moon. Now, 23 Libra is conjunct Spica. Spica is one of the most favorable fixed stars that bestows blessings, is to be gifted. It's at 24 degrees of Libra. So when people have planets here or placements like angles, they tend to be quite, like they're successful at something, often associated with wealth. So we'll see how Spica shows up with this. And Venus stations direct on the same day. So there's going to be a big relationship breakup kind of thing, or relationship energy and focus. Now, maybe it's enemies come to some kind of agreement and stop with conflict. That would be a beautiful thing, because Pisces rules peace. So we'll see what happens around this full moon, but I think there's going to be big stories. There may be some big celebrity breakup in the news, and we'll see what else happens, because this is the full moon after the solar eclipse. So people will be recognizing a story in their own life. The sun at 23 Aries is the Four of Wands tarot card. Now, this is a card of celebration, sometimes weddings. The Sabian symbol is an open window and a net curtain blowing into the shape of a cornucopia, which also gives themes of abundance and prosperity, promises, options. And when you start a relationship or get engaged right about when Venus is going direct, that can be very fortunate. So that can suggest this relationship has some staying power. And Venus will be exalted in Pisces. So it could be like a very loving relationship. You get engaged with Venus being so close to Saturn. You decide you're willing to put in the energy for this long-term commitment. The moon is at 23 Libra, which is the Four of Swords tarot card, a card of rest, relaxation. A third wing on the left side of a butterfly is the Sabian symbol. So that gives themes of imbalance. Like a butterfly is a beautiful thing, but a third wing is some kind of imperfection on that butterfly because it would make it very difficult for the butterfly to fly. Oh my God, hopefully no more plane problems. It seems every day there's some kind of incident on an airplane. So we just need to be aware of that. This could be a beautiful, maybe you go see Madame Butterfly on this weekend. Yeah, so it's a full moon. Really notice what comes to your conscious attention about relationships of all kinds and how you take action to get what you want, Aries, versus are willing to collaborate to make sure there's win-win solutions, Libra. And themes of diplomacy, collaboration, maybe in the collective. So notice when you see partnerships having some kind of strain with the Venus conjunct Saturn or committing to a long-term something, people may be getting engaged. The moon phase family of this cycle began back on October 14th, 2023, where the sun and moon were both in Libra at 21 degrees, and it was a solar eclipse. And this eclipse was a week after the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel. And since then, Israel and Hamas have been in this horrific war with untold catastrophes of people losing their lives. The first quarter moon of this phase, the sun is in Cancer, the moon was in Libra at 22 degrees on July 13th, 2024. And now we come to the full moon where all is illuminated. The sun in Aries, the moon in Libra, both at 23 degrees on April 12th, 2025. So this is directly across Israel's ascendant and descendant, like I had mentioned. So there's likely to be a big story right around this day or within 2 weeks. And the last quarter moon, the sun in Capricorn, the moon in Libra, both at 23 degrees on January 10th, 2026. You can look back for your own life, especially if you have any placements around 20 to 25 degrees of the cardinal signs of Cancer, Libra, Aries, or Capricorn, and see if there is a story in your life. If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com. On Sunday, the word of the day is zealous. We start the week with the moon in Leo, a fiery, dramatic sign. On this day, the sun in Aries will sextile Jupiter in Gemini. The sun is exalted in Aries. It's the sign of the military. Jupiter has to do with legal affairs. Maybe there could be because Jupiter's in Gemini, which is a double-bodied sign, so there can be an image of two people getting in a conflict with a sun-type figure. But a sextile is an aspect of opportunity. This could be a military leader facing some kind of court, and it could be the court of public opinion, Jupiter and Gemini. I've been wondering if Jeffrey Goldberg, who is the person who was accidentally invited to the signal chat of the top cabinet members and military people, they right when they were going to attack the Houthi rebels, and it's just a whole big scandal. I've been wondering if he's got additional information he hasn't put out in the public yet, and he could be like, surprise, here's something else that was said, and that maybe he puts it out based on something that's going on. So we'll see if that happens. That may just be my wishful thinking for my Venus in Gemini, Mars in Gemini, wanting something, a little bit of excitement in the collective. Now, the Leo moon is opposite Pluto in Aquarius. So there can be a group of people who's dealing with some kind of power struggle against an oppressive regime. I think we're going to be seeing that all over the world. In the United States on Saturday, there are all these protests, April 5th, that are happening. So that could be a big part of what we're seeing. And people are zealous. They're passionate about something, passionate about their values, willing to fight. And Mars in Cancer and Venus retrograde in Pisces are in a trine, and they are applying to each other. And Mars is actually moving faster than Venus. So this is interesting because Venus normally moves faster than Mars, but because Venus is in its retrograde cycle and slowing down, Mars is almost moving at double the speed into Venus. So Venus-type figures, which are Libras and Tauruses, so if you have a lot of planets in those signs, just be aware that, pay attention. Venus is retrograde. You're walking backwards and you slip in a puddle of water and then you trip and you fall. That could be something that happens. And it just happens so fast. Or you're walking fast and you're not paying attention. You could have a minor little accident or something like that. Now, internally, this is a beautiful energy to recognize your part in conflicts you have with the people you love, because Mars fights and Venus rules relationships, and water signs are internal and emotional. So this is something just to be thinking about for yourself. Yeah, you may be revisiting in your mind past loves and things and old conflicts or sexy time. Mars also rules sex, could be coming up. Yeah, what old love story is ready for you to heal and have closure about as Venus slows down to station to go direct? You can be thinking about, what does intimacy really mean to you, and how is intimacy tied to sex? Mars rules sex, intimacy, the water signs are intimate. And for the United States, Venus, we have a Libra midheaven, so Venus rules the president and the 10th house executive branch. So I really hope there's no big conflict on the seas where there's some military screw up by the United States. I just really hope, or that the administration comes up with some new way to attack the American people in addition to all these tariffs and whatnot. Let's hope not. On Monday, the word of the day is diamond. Venus retrograde and Saturn are conjunct at 25 Pisces. So someone got engaged and they're showing off their ring at work on Monday. Mercury is direct at 26 Pisces, and Venus retrograde is sextile Uranus at 25. So someone's excitingly telling you how they just got engaged this weekend or got this great gift, Venus. from their boo, or they heard on the phone from somebody they'd broken up with, and now they're thinking about getting back together or something like that. On Tuesday, the word of the day is accounting. The Virgo moon begins at 6:39 a.m. Pacific time. Virgo moons are a great time to bring order to chaos, decluttering, cleaning up any kind of mess. Virgo rules health, so there could be health news on this day. Now, if something horrible happened with Mercury stationing direct, there could have been some kind of transportation incident, and Mercury's direct in Pisces, so I wrote down a gas line. If there was some kind of problem with a gas line, the moon goes into Virgo, and you can see someone standing outside a hospital talking about the people who were injured, blah, 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 blah. I wrote down health emergency, accounting for who was missing from the place where there was some kind of problem, could be what we are seeing. On Wednesday, the word of the day is quibble. The sky is pretty quiet. The moon is semi-square Mars, so this could be like a little tiny irritation or argument. The moon is also square Jupiter, so making a mountain out of a molehill. So a Virgo moon sounds square Jupiter and Gemini. Just sounds like people just quibbling over nothing. So just recognize if you're being a little critical or unnecessarily poking the bear in any way, and maybe stop it. On Thursday, the word of the day is confessional. Mercury will meet the North Node at 27 Pisces. And this could be someone confessing their sins in front of a group like Congress somewhere around the world, or a parliament, telling about something that was done in the dark may come to the light on this day or leading up to this day. The moon enters the sign of Libra at 6:11 p.m. Pacific time. So it could be about diplomatic relationships. In the United States, as I said, the U.S. has a Libra midheaven, so it could be something related to the executive branch or the president. On Friday, the word of the day is peachy. Mars is trying the North Node at 27 Pisces. So Mars in Cancer, the North Node at 27 Pisces. This will be interesting. There could be like some kind of attack on an organization. Like I can see in the United States, the president attacking Congress about something, or NATO or something like that, some big group. Yeah, maybe the U.S. picks a fight with NATO this week. Could be something that comes up or says we're not giving money for this or that, or participating in this or that. Peachy makes me think about Georgia could be in the news as well. On Saturday, the word of the day is abdicate. So there could be a leader, someone who steps down from a throne of some kind, or gets pulled down, or they're just not there anymore. The Sun and Chiron meet at 22.5 Aries on a world point. So there will be big news. The 22.5 and 0 degrees of the cardinal signs are world point, suggesting there's something that's going to be elevated and get a lot of attention about leaders being wounded in some way. It doesn't have to be physical, but if someone confessed to something, some leader, and it could just be like the CEO of an organization steps down because they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, or their hand with a bunch of pills in their hands. Pisces rules drugs, so there could be some kind of drug scandal this week. Now, this could also be about the U.S. The president has said, and on the day Neptune went into Aries, or no, it was actually the day of the solar eclipse, he made some comment about how he wants Greenland and he might be willing to use military force. He's not taking it off the table, which is bonkers, suggesting that the U.S. is going to go to war with NATO over Greenland. And we want Greenland for their minerals. They have all these minerals that can be used in AI things. So the world is headed to some really precarious places. It's concerning. There's a full moon at 23 degrees of Libra at 5:22 p.m. So we're going to be, the big news may happen Friday. As soon as the moon goes into Libra, we may start hearing big news. So just hold on to your hat. We'll see what happens. Venus goes direct on this day in the sign of Pisces, 24 Pisces. So this could also be something about the UN, NATO. There'll be news in the Middle East. Yeah, there could be some kind of conflict between some kind of allies. It's really interesting with all the tariffs that the president is doing. It's making strange bedfellows. China, Japan, and South Korea are getting together to have a response that is aligned against the tariffs. The EU is coming together, in addition to Canada, combating the United States. Pluto is in Aquarius. The power is in the groups, not in the king or the monarch type person. So we in the United States are we're having some difficult times. Neptune in Aries is conjunct our IC, suggesting that people are becoming disillusioned because the IC is opposite the MC with the actions that the president is taking, because it's impacting their wallets. It's impacting their ability to travel. It's impacting all kinds of things. So we'll see what happens. That's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or DM me on Instagram, my main platform. Let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you, and take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.